This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not driving my sweet AMC Pacer through the car wash, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio World. You missed a spot.
Generational wealth. Generational wealth. Generational wealth. What is generational wealth? We asked our communities, and this is what they had to say.
Generational wealth to me is setting up a safety net for the future, not only for yourself, but for the generations to come. To not have the future generations, maybe in your own family, to have to go through the same trials that you had to go through. Maybe if you went through something hard when you were younger, maybe being poor, being middle class, or not having the money to have access to the things that other people around you do. It's setting up that safety net so that not only you, maybe later in your life, but also your kids, their kids, can end up having the luxuries that you would have wanted when you were young.
This campaign to create awareness to generational wealth is brought to you by the Department of Neighborhood's Generational Wealth Initiative, the Washington Housing Finance Commission, and Rainier Avenue World. Create your generational wealth for you and the future of your families.
The beat of the Fox with nastiness is back on K-Fox Night Beat.
Yo, what's the deal? It's the legendary Hall of Fame DJ Mixmaster Ice from UTFO.
What's up? Who you thought this is? This is Sir Mix-a-Lot.
And this is Terry Lewis.
And I'm Grand Mixer GMS.
What's up, y'all? This is DJ Third Degree.
This is JJ Hudson from the High Children family.
Sunday nights from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's K-Fox Night Beat with DJ Nastiness.
Bringing back the memories.
Bringing back the memories.
Bringing Seattle's hottest music.
Bringing Seattle's hottest music. Rainier Avenue Radio World.
That's my noise.
Peace.
My name is Keith. I'm a barber from Tacoma, Washington. When the pandemic hit, it did affect me as a business owner. I had my own personal reasons why I didn't get vaccinated. But I was talking to a doctor and he was telling me more about what it could do to protect us and our family. I wanted to get back to that once was, right? I do feel safe knowing that I am vaccinated. I just hope what I'm saying is reaching into people's heads to know that this is the best decision for all of us. To learn more, please visit hereforuswa.org.
You are listening to Rainier Avenue Radio World. Don't forget to log on www.rainieravenue radio.world.
Hello. Welcome to Clean Greens Living, broadcasted live on Rainier Avenue Radio. Can you hear me? I am your host, Queen Bree, and welcome to Clean Greens Living, broadcasted on Rainier Avenue Radio. I am so happy to have you guys here today. I want to do a land acknowledgement before we get straight into the show. We acknowledge that we are on traditional land of the first people of Seattle, the Coast Salish, past, present, and we honor with gratitude the land itself and the Duwamish, Suquamish, Nisqually, Snoqualmie, and Muckleshoot tribes. We also acknowledge what has happened on this land in Seattle to affect the Black lives in our community due to redlining and systematic and oppressive mechanisms of anti-Blackness enacted by white leaders, politicians, and business people. And these families have been robbed of passing down generational wealth to their families. And we want to hear your stories. So if you guys have a story and you have been robbed from passing down generational wealth to your families due to redlining in Seattle, please visit us at www.blackdollardaystaskforce.org. We would love to hear from you and hear your stories. Also, yesterday, I was so excited to be out and celebrate Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day to you all. I was able to go to Garfield Community Center for their annual, this year was their 40th annual. That's a big number. 40th annual celebration of Martin Luther King, where they come, they talk, they remind us of the work that we've done. They remind us of the work that we have to continue on doing. They marched, they were singing. My child was one of the singers there. She did an awesome job. Then I went over to NAM, Northwest African American Museum. I talk too fast. Northwest African American Museum is now open. You guys, it is open. Please go there and check it out. It was so nice to be out looking at. It was so packed, y'all. It was so packed. It was so beautiful. Sun was out. It was just a beautiful day. So I just wanted to let you guys know NAM is open and acknowledge Dr. Martin Luther King's Day here on Clean Greens. We are now opening up our list. We're opening up our sign-up list for our youth program. So if you remember last year, we had a youth programs. The ages were 5 and up, 5 to 18, 5 to 17, to learn how to garden and plant and grow your own produce. This year, we're going to be doing it differently. We're going to have access to all this year as well. So we'll have our youth program, and then we'll also have a setup where 18 and up can come and learn how to garden. We will be giving out starters for you to start your own garden this year. So I'm excited about that. That's coming up. But if you have a youth ages 5 to 18, I want to say 14 to 18 will not only be able to participate in a program, but they will be able to get community service hours, which are good for school and for college applications. So please, if you know any kids in those age range, please send them our way at blackdollarcleangreens@gmail.com, or you can connect with us on our website and let us know. Let's see. Okay, so let's bring on my co-host today, who is Christina. She is back with me, and we're going to continue our conversation from last week about starting your own garden. What does that look like? What does it look like when you're planting? I know that we are at Clean Greens. We are down for giving out produce, but we are now starting to plan this year's crop. And with starting our garden, we start with planting our crops. And last week we talked about growing frost. So when you're starting your garden, I should have made a picture. Next week, I know I keep saying next week all the time, but this week I did bring the pictures I were talking about last week. I want to get a picture of what a crop planting looks like, what it looks like to crop plan. And Daniel will be so on it. So if you could look it up, if not, it's okay. I could bring it next week. But what does it look like to crop plan? Crop planting is when I could tell you what it is, but what it looks like is a different story. So crop planting is when you plant your crop and then you put it down on a calendar. So you know what crops you want to plant. And then you put on this calendar, when should you start planting? When should you harvest? And when should you rotate your crop? And so we're in that process of crop planting. And as we were planning, we were looking at gardening with frost versus gardening with the moon. Gardening with the moon, yes, look, that's a nice crop planting. That's a good one. That looks like it's on Excel. I may need that one. That's what crop planting looks like. So you'll put your produce down. You'll put the dates that it starts to that you need to start planting, or if you should start your seedlings, if you should start indoor or outdoors. These are things that you want to think about when you're crop planting. We talked about knowing your growing zone. So looking in your zone and seeing exactly what it is that you can grow in your zone. If you haven't watched the show, go back and check it out. And we talked about, we weren't sure if we can grow okra in our area. And we found out we can. But there's certain areas that the produce grows much better in an abundance. So you want to know your growing zone. And you can look that up on the internet. There's plenty of tools that can show you what your zone is and when you can grow. And it'll show you the first day of frost and the last day of frost. As I mentioned last week, Clean Greens is April 23rd is when we can start planting. And November 2nd is when we want to look into stop planting and putting the farm to bed. What else do we talk about? Space, knowing your space. How big is your space? Do you have enough space and time to commit to what you're growing? So for some who are starting off, you might want to start with like a little planter. I got some, like Daniel, I was trying to be a good girl, and I got a presentation right here. Now, look at that. Okay, so these are the different planters, right? So this is the raised beds, and you want to look into how long do you want your raised beds? How short do you want your raised beds? How tall do you want your raised beds? We have some growing from the ground. These are pictures that I took last year when I went to the Urban Farmers Conference. Urban Farmers and Growers Conference. If you guys have not followed them, go follow them on Facebook. It's Black Farmers and Urban Gardeners Conference. They have a conference, I think it's yearly. This was my first year going last year. Yearly, where you could be anywhere on your walk with farming. You could be just starting as a farmer, because I was nervous that I wasn't going to have enough knowledge when I went there, right? But I went there and I had a little bit more knowledge than some people that were there, and some people were just getting started. So it's like a come together of the minds, what's working for you and what's not working for you, and we talk about it. They have different sessions. They have seed sharing. So seeds that you didn't use throughout the year or that you don't plan on using, you can swap out and get some different seeds if you want to try. So please go follow them. It was an amazing experience, but I just wanted to show you guys different ways that you can start start your garden. So you could do it in the raised beds. You could do it from the ground. And you could do it in a greenhouse. And the greenhouse is just protecting your crops from the harshness of the weather. So what do you want to be outside in the ground or and then also the humidity, the humidity as well. Like, it is going to protect your crops that needs to grow in humidity, but it may be a little cold outside. And then there was these little planters, which I feel like would be best for me growing at home. These little planters that they used to grow some of their produce in. So they had like 4 different ways that they grew their produce at this particular farm. And I wanted to show you guys those examples so that you guys can see the different ways that you guys can grow your produce. Growing, and I wanted to clarify, I kept saying, I went and looked back at the video last week and I kept saying growing versus the moon. It's not growing versus the moon. It's growing with the moon. And the moon has 4 cycles. It has the new moon cycle. It has the first quarter cycle, the full moon cycle, and the end of quarter cycle. And again, growing with the moon is growing with how the earth works. So there's growing with frost, which is when it's like, in the wintertime, the ground is cold. Some places have snowed, so there's still frost on the ground. So you want to know if you want to grow with frost. You want to grow going according to the frost calendar, or you want to grow with the moon calendar. The frost calendar, you want to be careful because some produce cannot last in the frost. So you want to make sure you are growing after the last frost. After the last frost. Yes. There's first frost and last frost. The reason why I'm getting confused, because for us, it's the beginning of the year, right? But for farmers, this is the last frost. And so when us, as humans, we go with November as the end of the year, but that is the first frost. So remember that. Keep in mind that in the spring, it's the last frost. In the fall, it is the first frost. And so you want to keep conscious of those dates, because you don't want to grow your produce and they don't last because the ground is too cold. All right. Growing with the moon, the difference between growing with the frost and growing with the moon is that you're growing the earth. The moon offsets the earth, right? Or I don't even know if I'm using that word right. I'm trying to sound like a scientist and I ain't even a scientist, but just go with it, right? So the earth is affected by the moon. So when you're growing with the moon, you're going to have, they say you're going to have better germination, and the soil will be more moist when you're growing with the moon. So those are things that you want to think about. It's like, do I want to grow with the moon, or do I want to grow with the frost? I think for starters, it may be easier for you to start with the frost, because for sure there's dates that you can look up that will tell you in your area, in your zone, when the first frost is. And I'm going to bring Christina on and see if I missed anything. Hey, Christina.
Hey.
Hey, girl, hey, you're here.
Yes, I am. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Did I miss anything that we talked about last week?
No, that was awesome. Thank you for going back and explaining that, because I sure forgot to really dig into that moon.
I know, because it just seems so interesting. I'm really interested in growing with the moon, but at the end of the day, I think that most people have to go with, like, what is your time constraint, right? And if you're working with a team like us, even though I like going by the moon, is that's going to be what's best for our team to go by the moon? You know what I'm saying? Because it seems like cross is easier to detect, and going by the moon, you got to do a little bit more research.
So are you gonna grow with the moon at home and let us know how it goes?
Well, I'm not going to grow with the moon, because remember, if you guys go back and watch the last show, just to recap, I was a little nervous about how I sounded and all this stuff on the show, and we did a pretty damn good job last week. And I just want to stop and say that you guys don't doubt yourself. Don't doubt yourself. And no matter, even if you mess up, you can always continue to go and learn from your mistakes and grow. And I have to set that as a reminder for myself and for everyone else. But remember, I don't own my own property, so I can't just go digging in the ground, right?
Containers.
So, but that's the thing. It's like, so I got to do more research, because
I remember you brought that up. Like, is it still growing with the moon if you grow in containers?
Yeah,
that was
because
your question.
Yeah, because I'm thinking the moon, the Earth is set with the moon, so the Earth is working with the moon, right? But once we disturb that and put that soil inside the planters, would that work as far as growing with the moon? Because now, does that still mean, is the lighting from the moon is what's making the soil more?
Or is it like the layers of the Earth, like the core and
I
don't know. That's a good question. I'm nosy. I want to know too.
Look, I'm about to go look it up. I'm gonna look that up because I would know. So, that being your answer to your question, if I can plant in planters by the moon, then yes, I'm a plant by the moon. Because with farming, we talk about it. When you're farming and when you're planting, if you're becoming one with the earth, you're getting connected back to the earth, which for a lot of African Americans don't understand that is our history, that is our heritage. And so I would love to plant towards the moon, because I would feel like I'm working with the earth instead of against the earth.
And with your ancestors.
Yes, working with my ancestors, getting back with my spiritual background of just coming to do what we were called to do, and just taking care of the earth and taking care of my body. So if I could do that, I will.
Okay. We're going to keep talking about it.
Yeah, look, we are, because look, you guys, I want to plant a garden, and I'll say it, but then I'll get so busy. But I have a feeling Christina is going to get me started on this garden. So I'm excited. I love having Christina on this team. I really do.
I would love to help you get started.
Okay.
I would love to help you make it a priority.
Okay. Thank you. And I will do that. I already have a few things that I want to try to grow. And I know one, when I was at the Bugs conference, I got to find these seeds, but they gave us some loofah seeds I want to learn to grow. And I want to grow, I want to grow some lavender. I know I want to grow that. I want to grow some lettuces. And I want to grow some tomatoes. And if I can grow some, I want to grow some mustard greens.
Like you name,
she froze. As she gets back together, we'll move on and then pick up where we stopped off for her. So now that we talked about, there we go. Hey, can you hear me? Oh, your sound's out? Maybe go back out and come back in, Christina. So now that you know that we gave the breakdown, the recap of starting to grow, you might want to go back and check out the show, last week's show. But now that we did the recap on what we do as far as planning our crop planning, now what's next? It's planting that is next. But when you're starting your own garden, we have to know about our soil. Is your soil good? Does your soil, can you grow in that area and your produce come out good? So you want to start talking about testing your soil and making sure that it's healthy enough to grow. Because if not, then we got to get the soil healthy, right? And I want to talk about this more when Christina comes on, because I know a little bit about it, but she knows more about making your soil healthy. I know that some of the ways that you can make your soil healthy. Hey, Christina.
Hey.
Hey, girl. Hey. I have moved into soil like after we did our crop planting. Now we're ready to plant, but are we ready to plant? Because we got to test the soil. And what are some ways that people what is the reason to test the soil, first of all? Can you explain what's the good reason to test your soil?
Yeah, I think it's basically two reasons why you want to test your soil. If you're growing in the ground, you want to make sure that your soil is safe to grow in as far as contaminants and toxins, which is really common in urban areas, for one. And then you may, or the audience may have heard about issues such as environmental racism, where we know that certain areas were zoned for groups of people historically, especially African Americans, where they could purchase homes. And unfortunately, a lot of those areas were industrial areas. They were undesirable areas of the city that we were forced to live in. And I'm reading a really good, I know this is off topic, but not really, but I'm reading a really good book about my hometown, Mobile, Alabama, Africa Town, where there's a super fun site. There was actually a dump in the city, in this African American part of town. And it's just really sad and unfortunate. Like, the effects from that are still being felt. And of course, justice has not been served. So you want to test your soil for contaminants.
Before you move on, that's not our subject. I feel like that is on subject, especially when we're talking about soil. And I did download the book so that we can read it together and then talk about it on the show.
Good.
Yeah,
Okay.
I did remember. But the name of the book, because I want everybody else to know the name of the book to check it out, because as we get into this planting, as we get into learning how to farm or grow our own garden, these are information that we should know, especially as people of color and as people of non-color. What is the even word for you guys? I'm sorry, I don't mean to be rude, but everyone. Huh?
Allies.
Yeah. Allies. Yes, our allies. It is important for us all to know this information so that we can work to get justice and to change the way things are. The name of the book is Slave. I remember it was Slave.
It's called The Last Slave Ship.
The Last Slave Ship.
It's upstairs. I think it's Ben Reeves, but I don't want to say.
Oh yeah, I have my phone with me. Quick. I'll look it up while you finish telling about soil. So like she said, making sure that our soil is okay, especially if you live in urban areas and cities, because as you live near, like I live near a busy street. So all those toxins and pollutants, and I live next door to a car shop. So all those toxins and pollutants that can be going into the earth, you also want to know your land history. What was on there before it became a house, became a home? Was it a factory? Was it a school? All that stuff is important. And so, Christina, while you finish, there you go. Go ahead, finish, and I'll look up the book so we could tell everybody who it's by. Okay, we lost her. So I'm going to multitask and tell you guys about this book, because I think it's important for The Last Slave Ship by Ben Raines. So this is important for us to do this history as we learn how to garden and get back to our roots. Gardening and farming is in our roots. Growing our own produce is in our roots. And we want to, so testing your soil is important to make sure that you have healthy soil. If you don't have healthy soil, that doesn't mean that you can't grow. That just means that you have to start to, one, maybe start off in planters as you start to build your healthy soil. And Christina, there are ways that they can build their healthy soil, right?
Yes, there are lots of ways,
Oh,
and
I can't hear you. Your sound. Are you on mute?
No.
Okay, maybe come out and come back in. We're gonna get this together because she is an asset to this program, and I really enjoy her on here. But we're gonna keep moving until she gets her what is it, technical stuff going on. So there are ways to get your soil healthy. It may take a minute. So while you're waiting to get your soil healthy, these are why I showed you different options to grow your produce. So you can grow in a raised bed. So what you do is you buy the wood, and then you build these boxes, and then you put the tarp down, and then you put the soil down, and then you start to grow in there. Christina, can we hear you now?
Can you hear me?
No.
Oh my God. I don't know.
It's okay. We'll just keep going until you figure it out, or the show's almost over. But another way is building up on your ground, which is put the tarp down, put the soil, the wood chips, the bark down, and just layer it and then grow like that. So, and we'll talk about that next week for sure, because those are ways that you can get your soil healthy. But in the meantime, if you test your soil and your soil is not good, you want to grow in planters, and you want to grow in those small containers, which are like planters you grow plants in. And as your produce gets larger and bigger, you can transplant them other places. If you work closely with Clean Greens, you may be able to help grow your produce on our own urban garden. And that will be an option coming up, just to throw that out there. Reasons. So when we talk about testing our soil, you also want to figure out, are you going to grow organic or non-organic? And growing organic is you have to do your research, because one, you want to do what's best for your budget, and growing organic is the better way to go. But if you can't grow organic, I'm pretty sure that there are other ways that you can grow your produce and make sure that you are being good to the earth and good to your body. But growing organic is better because you're not putting all those pesticides and harmful exposures to the soil and to your body. All of that, like growing organic protects your body and it protects your soil. And if you're trying to grow healthy soil, you want to make sure that you're using as much organic produce and products as possible to be able to keep healthy soil. Everything. So when your food is growing in that dirty soil, your plants are absorbing that, which your body then absorbs when you eat. So you want to make sure that when you're learning to plant, that you're figuring out if you want to plant organic versus non-organic. Also, planting organic reduces your carbon footprint. And so if we're talking about saving Mother Earth, and we're talking about so we talk about this a lot with the kids as well, is as we can see, our weather is changing out there. So climate change is real, people. And even if you don't believe it, what's the harm in just trying to do better for Mother Earth? This is the ball that we live in. This is the bubble we live in. We want to take care of our air and our ground. So making sure that when you're planting, that you're doing best practices for your body and for Mother Earth. We are running out of time. So I want to just kick this to you guys really quick. Reasons to start your own farm, garden, whatever you want to call it. You are more likely to eat more healthier fruits and vegetables. You don't have to worry about if your food is safe to eat because you grew it yourself. And it reduces the miles from your food to where it was grown. So if you get food from California, who knows what happens all the way from that transportation till it gets to the store, till it gets to you. But you know what happens when you grow that produce in the ground to when it comes to your table. And this is a lot of the times where we talk about practicing farm to table. All right, that's time, guys. I will see you next week. We are going to continue these conversations as we start to plan Clean Greens season this year. You guys have a good day. See you later. Bye.